A very good evening to all. We are delighted to welcome you all in this VCM. Energetic Chairman CA Charanjot Singh Nandaji. Now, the today topic is how to crack ICI assessment, ESA assessment test. In the contemporary era, the existence of digital world can't be overruled, and so is the importance of the information system audit, and it is a need of the art too. So, thanks, sir, for coming up with such a brilliant topic in this, and we all know that Charanjot Nanda sir didn't need any recognition or introduction because he is the personality who is known to everyone through his untiring efforts for the profession. He is in the council since 2004 and he has headed so many committees like Committee on Management Accounting, Committee on Internal Audit, Committee for Members in Industry, Committee for Cooperative and NPO Sector, Committee on Financial Markets and Investor Protection, Public Relation Committee, Research Committee. He is also headed the Committee of Public Finance and Government Accounting Committee and many more in the list. As well as the academic pursuit, he is contributed as a guest speaker at various Surrey, Vancouver, British Columbia chapter of ICI on IFRS, Effective Communication and Forensic Accounting Seminar. He contributed as a guest faculty and program coordinator at various seminars and conferences organized by international bodies, NIRC councils of ICI, WIRC, CIRC, EIRC, and SIRC, and branches and study circle of NIRC. I think hardly he turned anything on left in the life. He has made presentation and chair session on overview of the proposed GST regime in India, overview of IAS 12 on income taxes, overview of IAS 18 on revenue, overview of financial accounting and auditing standards, IFRS, ICAI, and IPSAS. International conference at Kathmandu on WTO and trade laws. He has also given presentation to HR professionals, international conferences at Kathmandu, presentation before government bodies, professional opportunities for chartered accountant to act as independent director, and proceedings before DCs. So I think it is a time to welcome the visionary, energetic, and I think none other than a person, Charanjot Nanda sir, a name that reckon only respect, regard, and love.
Thanks a lot, Sonia ji. My apologies that I am not visible because there is some technical snag. So my salutations to the honorable faculties of the day, Mr. Avinash Gokhale, Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini, the Secretary, Digital Accounting Standard Board, Mr. Amit Gupta, the officials of DAB, Ashok from Technology team, Madam Sonia Arora, who's the past chairman of Jalandhar branch and moderators of today's session, and all who have come here to go home more enlightened. Ladies and gentlemen, I am truly honored to be amongst you. The reason is very candid, very simple, very forthcoming. We chartered accountants have learned one thing in abundance: to contribute. And contribution starts when we become technically sound. Chartered accountants of our age did not know anything at our time. Accounting standards were meager, but we understand accounting standards. Technology was not there, but the speaker, you say, Mr. Gokhale, senior person, he's not teaching technology, he's teaching information system audit. Please understand, in life, we have learned one thing, that if you have to grow in life, you need to understand, you need to assimilate things to make you at a larger perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, information system audit is something which will ultimately change the landscape of the entire auditing profession. I want to tell you that we had a meeting with the Reserve Bank of India, whereby Reserve Bank of India indicated that it intended that ICI, your Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which was set up an Act of Parliament way back on 1st July 1949, be designated as the regulator for all information system audits to be undertaken all across the country, even by engineers. The answer is very clear. Our performance, our dedication, our deep-rooted knowledge to understand and then to use that, assimilate that, or put them in perspective is something that people have always respected and regarded. Information system audit course is gaining prominence. DISA is gaining prominence all across the country. And therefore, even tomorrow we are starting a physical batch of DISA in New Delhi. So this has ultimately prompted chartered accountants to learn technology. But I'm reminded of Christ who once said, "Oh Lord, do not put me to test." We have our DISA exams and we have two of the faculties who would guide you and tell you how you could crack those exams. So today's session is very candidly put across a very important milestone, how to crack the ISA exams. Doing ISA is very, very difficult, but we know how to conquer large mountains. We know how to conquer difficult exams. I'm reminded of a couplet which says, "Ghar khairat mein milti kamyabi to har shakhs kamyab hota hai. Ghar khairat mein milti kamyabi to har shakhs kamyab hota. फिर कदर ना होती किसी हुनर की और ना ही कोई लाजवाब होता." अगर आप लाजवाब होना चाहते हैं तो अपनी टेक्निकल स्किल्स को हॉन करें, और इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम ऑडिट से बेहतर एक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के लिए माइलस्टोन कुछ नहीं हो सकता. सो विशिंग यू अ ग्रेट एग्जाम, wishing you conquering this information system audit and turning yourself, transforming yourself to a system auditor whereby you rise this wave of technology and create value and worth. I will not stand between two of the revered speakers. So I give the dais back to Madam Sonia, who has spared her very valuable time to come and moderate this session. Sonia ji, this dais is all yours. Please take it forward. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Nanda sir seriously
Thank you,
hold
sir.
a aura that, changed the environment altogether.
Most welcome,
And
sir.
now
I am there. I am there. Thank you so much. Always there.
And now it's time to introduce the eminent speaker of the today's session, that is Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini, sir. And regarding the introduction, he has more than 18 years of experience in the software development, information security, training, research, and consultancy. He holds a BTech in computer science and engineering and MTech in information technology, and also PhD in the computer science and engineering, that is the blockchain. A future, I must say, the future of C2. He has qualified CISA exam. We're talking about the DISA, and he has already qualified the CISA exam too, and is a Wipro and Infosys certified faculty. He has published many research papers in journals and proceedings of international and national conferences. He has delivered many lectures as a guest lecturer on various information technology, risk management, IT security, and IS auditing related concepts in the leading institutions like CA Sri Lanka, IEI, ICAI, RTIAS, TIPS, and many more across India and abroad. So it's not a national as well as an international speaker today we have. So it's really a privilege to welcome Dr. Vinay Kumar Saini, sir. So you can start your deliberation, sir. It's really a privilege to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia ma'am. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Respected participants and representatives from DAB. I think Nanda sir has really set up the tone for the session. We should have a clarity about what we are doing here, right? And our job should be clear to us. And when we say IS audit, we must have clarity that we are not going to develop the technology. Our job is to deliver assurance, right? So we must understand that we have a serious job. We need to check how a system is being designed, how it is being implemented, how it is being operationalized. So there are so many segments associated with the information system that has to be reviewed in order to deliver assurance. Assurance for the purpose that it meets to the requirements of the organization. Right. So we need to understand our role very clearly. Only then I think we can excel and proceed towards achieving our objectives. Keeping that in the mind, today's agenda is to plan and approach this examination process so that we can prepare ourselves and can transform our ideas to clear this exam. Right. So if you see, there are two different perspectives. So role clarity is very important. When it comes to practicing IS audit, you'll have different circumstances, different situations, problems. It could be related to information security of the system. It could be the performance. It could be compliance assurance or many other aspects related to information system. But when it comes to exam, I think it's a totally different ball game. Means you need to have all that knowledge, but considering that fact, you have to apply that knowledge in a very confined and a very challenging scenario. The challenging scenario is the exam environment, and you will be given a set of questions, right? So it means that you need to channelize all the knowledge that you have very precisely, and with a proper systematic plan, you have to execute all that knowledge so that you can answer the questions quickly, right? So with that, I'll quickly share some of the tips with you, like how you should approach your exam. And then quickly, I'll give you some introduction about first 3 modules of the course, right? So the first and the most important strategy, if you want to appear for this exam, is you must have clarity about the roadmap of the course, like what is the structure of the course, how many modules are there, which module has how much weightage. I think that input is really going to make your execution more effective. Okay, so before we proceed further, let me quickly give you some basic insights on how you should approach your exam, right? And then I'll quickly give you the insights about first 3 modules of the course, right? So the approach should be like the plan for attempting this exam. I think there you should divide this whole objective into 3 segments. One is like 3 stages of your preparation. One is preparation before last week, right, before exam. So this is your first stage, right? So whatever time you have right now till the last week before the exam, that is the phase where you should have a different plan, right? You should have a plan, like you should keep on reviewing all the modules. You should study and practice as much as questions you can. You should keep on following latest technology buzz around you. You should try and practice or experience technology around you. Like if you are doing practice, you can see what are the problems that you are facing, whether it is in terms of data analysis, whether it is about security issues that you are facing in your office, or performance issues. So means you should try and acquaint yourself, and you should try and experience more and more technology and how it works, and if you are facing a problem and how a technology can solve that problem better. So in the course, you might have studied about various technologies like data analysis, then you have IoT, then you have cloud computing, you have blockchain, you have AI, you have what do you say, robotic process automation. So the idea is there are so many things available. And as an individual, if you want to be a good auditor, you should start experiencing these things. And you will see there are a lot of example scenarios around you, whether you go to any shopping mall, whether you go to like a website where you're doing e-commerce operations, or whether you are doing online reservation, you'll come across a lot of softwares and a lot of technologies which you are using. But if you start experiencing them a little more carefully, you will build a mindset of an IS auditor, where you can understand potential problems which are there and you can take a note of it, right? And this will build your mindset where you can identify any gaps, and then you can think of possible solutions, or you can assess what impacts this kind of gaps can have. So a mindset is very important. So the first part of your planning should be like you should experience more and more technology, and you should study all your study material that is available, and you should practice some questions, whatever you have. But when you are into the second stage, that is the last week before exam, you should have a very structured approach, and you should channelize your brain in a way that makes your brain ready for the exam. So last week before exam, you should practice 3 mock exams, AT exams or ET exam, whatever examination you are having, exam paper, right? And with a gap of 1 day, right? And you should try to experience the same environment. Like let's say if it is AT exam, so you have 4 hours, right? So you should sit for 4 hours and have a question paper of 200 questions, right? And try to follow a pattern, what do you say, systematic approach on how you're going to approach and attempt those questions. So let me just give you a quick insight here as well. Like one thing is break your whole question paper, QP, that is question paper, into 4 segments because it is 4-hour exam. So you don't try to attempt the whole exam in a single go, right? So break it into a whole question paper into segments like 1 hour each, 4 segments, 1 hour each, right? And you should try and target that you'll try to attempt 50 questions per hour, right? It doesn't matter even if you don't meet that target, but try and practice to attempt 50 questions in 1 hour, and then take a minute or two break, right? Break for a minute or two, right? And in this break, what you have to do is you have to just relax your brain. You can eat a quick means a small piece of chocolate, or maybe you can drink water. You just have to relax your brain and you have to let your brain reset again, right? Because if you'll not take these breaks and you will not plan your exam, what will happen after a certain period, like 1 or 1.5 hour, your brain will start giving up. Your brain would be start feeling a lot of stress, a lot of what do you say, concepts are just mixing up and all. So you just have to avoid that state. If you can avoid that state, your brain will keep on getting refreshed and would be ready for the next lot of questions. Many times I have observed members are sharing their experiences that after 2 hours, I was like totally blank and I was not able to even understand the question that I was reading. So you have to avoid any such state, right? So a bit of planning can really make your journey a little more effective, right? So 50-minute break, 50 minutes, 50 questions should be attempted in the first segment, right? Questions. And then take a break. So you have to repeat this, like, so there will be 4 segments. So this way you'll be able to achieve your complete your paper, right? And idea is you don't have to go for your exam in a single go, right? So that you are resetting your brain and refreshing your brain so that your brain is ready for the next questions. This is the action plan, right? And you have to follow this scheme for all 3 mock tests that you are appearing before, means during 1 week before the exam. So means 1 week before the exam, you have to practice 3 exams at your place, so that your brain is not stressed up and it is mentally prepared for your exam experience. And same practice you have to do on the exam day, and you will not be feeling nervous then, and you will be more confident that I have already attempted these kind of exams and I'm quite ready and mentally prepared for that, right? But last day, so let's say 3 exams, mock exams with 1 day of gap. So last 1 day you should keep blank. You should enjoy yourself and you should feel fresh, and you should not study much on 1 day before the exam. So please take a note of all these things. So this will help you a lot. And last but not the least, you must have a technique for attempting question. All right. I'm quickly giving you this technique. This is quite effective. I have seen people sharing feedbacks that this technique has really helped them a lot. Technique of attempting the question. So what it says that it's very simple. First thing is read the question carefully. And skip the question if you don't understand. Right? You will say, sir, this way, I think there'll be a lot of wastage of time. No, let me tell you one thing, what happens. If you know how our brain works, if you have read the question and you feel like you don't understand this, or that it is complex and there are no clear ideas about this question in your mind, so please don't read the answers, right? Without reading the answers. Because our brain is structured in a way that it starts processing the information, and even if you don't know the answer, it will start creating knowledge, right? So if you have read the question, you don't understand the question, you start reading the answers, your brain will start taking this as a challenge and will start building new concepts. Okay, it may be this, it may be this, but you just imagine whatever you're doing is a total waste of effort, and it's going to create big chaos in later questions, right? So you have to make sure that you're not burdening your brain with any useless information, right? So please take care of this thing. if you seriously practice this technique, you will see that your effectiveness, your marks, everything will improve. Even your performance, like time you take to complete 200 questions would be much better than the people who are not following this technique, right? So one first step is read the question carefully and skip the question if you don't understand without reading answers. This is important. Second, if you have understood the question, so means, of course, you'll move to second step if you have understood the question. So identify key terms and what has been asked. So you must understand your question has two components. One is key terms and second is what has been asked. So key terms will give you hints and it will help you understand the question and visualize the question. But what has been asked is very important. Let's say many times it is like most important or the first step that we do, or which of the following is not a characteristic. Not means, so you have to understand there's a keyword not, which is actually the question that has been asked. But rest of the terms might be key terms that will give you an understanding of the situation. But you must clearly identify what has been asked and what are the key terms, so that you don't mix these two concepts. The moment you mix it, the question becomes too chaotic, too complex, and it takes a lot of time in answering the question. So please identify these two things separately so that there is no mixing and you can focus on the right question. Because if you don't understand what has been asked, and you may get confused about what is a possible answer. So once you have identified these two things, then the third thing is read first option and mark as acceptable or rejected. Right? It means you have to read first option and try to understand if it syncs with the question and question's objective. If you feel like, okay, it looks like the answer, mark it as acceptable. And if you don't think, no, this is totally absurd, it doesn't really sync with the question, just mark it as rejected. Okay. If you have done this thing for the first, you have to repeat the same for the next three options and repeat for next three options. But make sure that you only go to the next option once you have already marked for the previous option, right? You have already decided whether it is acceptable or rejected. You cannot overburden your brain, right? So at the end, after this third step, if you have an easy question, so there'll be three options that you have rejected and only one is acceptable. So it's an easy scenario. But there may be a scenario where you have more than one as acceptable, like two options are looking acceptable. So in that scenario, what you have to do is you have to compare the options based on keywords, and you may have to perform impact analysis, like which option has more impact. So you have to evaluate that of various of the options, acceptable options, right? And this way you'll be able to decode which one is the right answer. And at the end, after the question paper, you can revisit, like if you have reached to the end of the question paper, if you have reached to the end of question paper, revisit the skipped questions. Right. So this is a technique that you can try, and this is very effective. I'll quickly take one question as an example demo, and I will show you how you can practice this technique on that question. Just a second. Let me share my screen with that question. Just a second. Okay. So as I mentioned, you have to work on three fundamental principles beside this plan, right? So this is an action plan that you should follow for preparing during the before the exam and what you have to do during the exam. But beside this, there are three very important things that you have to focus on. And that is, you must have a quick study or a thorough understanding of all the modules, right? So your technical knowledge about all the modules and the concepts is very important. You have to study all the modules and all the terms, related terms. And second thing, because we all understand India is a very diverse country and there are so many different states with different languages. I have seen many times members have this challenge that they have confusion among various terms. Like, for example, I tell you, there's a term like authentication, authorization, or effectiveness and efficiency, right? So these are some terms people feel like they are similar and they are replaceable. But let me tell you one thing, these are not same terms, right? And there's a huge difference when it comes to its applicability in real world. So a clear understanding of these English terms is very important, right? If you have doubts, confusions in these terms, please try and practice, try to clarify those terms, why they are different, what is the difference between those terms. There's another term like integrity, right? So integrity, when we say there is an integrity related to integrity of IS auditor, then you have database integrity, then you have integrity which is used in what you call cryptography, like you have hashing technique which is used to ensure integrity. So the point is the terms are there, English terms are there, and you need to have clear meaning and clear understanding of those terms. That's very critical, right? Technical knowledge, clear understanding of English terms. And third thing is the technique that I mentioned you. This technique you should follow and practice as much as possible so that you are having clear mindset and approach of attempting the questions. Okay. Now I'll quickly show you a question and I'll show you how you can try this technique, right? So as I mentioned earlier that you don't have to read answers. First of all, you have to only focus on questions, right? So I'm just taking an example here. Wait a second. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, here it goes. Yeah. So let's say this is a question. Now just try to understand how I'm reading the question. Because many times I've seen members are attempting they're trying 2-3 times to read a question and still they are confused. It means they're not reading it in a proper way. So what should be the approach? When reviewing an organization's logical access security. So this is first segment of the question, right? When reviewing an organization's logical access security, it means you are a IS auditor who is reviewing an organization's logical access security. Okay. Now you must understand what is logical access and how anybody can access logical means how anybody can access a system logically, right? Through software means, through network, right? Now, if you're reviewing any such security policy or security, which of the following should be the most concern to an IS auditor? Okay. Now, IS auditor has certain findings. So which one is having highest concern? So it means we haven't seen the answers yet, but we can visualize that, okay, we are reviewing security, logical security, and there could be 4 possible observations. And we have to identify which one is the most concerned observation, means most serious one. So this is how you have to visualize the question. And then after that, you have to go to the options. When you feel that, yeah, I have understood the question, I have visualized, I understand what are the requirements of the question, then you should go to the answers. The first option says, passwords are not shared. Okay, if the passwords are not shared, is it a concern? Okay, means we should focus on, or we should ensure that the passwords are not shared. But it's perhaps very difficult to do, right? Instead, if we have a control, automated control, then it's very easy to implement. Okay, passwords are not shared. It's a good thing, but yeah, it is a concern. But let's see if there is any other concern which is higher or severe than this. Let's see. So you can mark as acceptable. If you are confused about any option, just mark it as acceptable. Second is password files are not encrypted. Okay. Password files are not encrypted means they are in clear text format, which can be read. Okay. So yeah, that looks a very serious observation, because if anybody get access to that file, all the passwords will be exposed. So if we compare first and second, second looks like more serious. Redundant login IDs are deleted. Okay, we must make sure that the redundant login IDs are deleted. Okay, this is also a good concern, but not as severe as the second one. The allocation of login IDs is controlled. Okay, yes, we should make sure that the allocation is controlled and as per the security policy. But if you see, all four looks like, yes, acceptable answers and are concerns for IS auditor. But if you see, the most highest impact or most relevant is, and most material is, the password files. The password files are the files which store all the passwords of all the user accounts. If they are not encrypted, it is perhaps the most serious vulnerability in the system. And if that file get stolen or accessed by anybody, all the details, all passwords will be exposed. So out of these four, second one has the highest impact. So second one is the right answer. So this is how you have to approach the question. Read the question carefully and don't read the answer until and unless you have visualized and understood the question. Once you have understood the question, then go and attempt the question and take one option at a time and see whether it is acceptable or rejected, and keep on moving one option at a time so that your brain is not overburdened and there is no negative or confusion created in your brain. So that's what I meant by this technique. So I hope you have understood this concept of how you should plan your exam and what should be your approach, like your technique of attempting the question. So I hope you will take a note of this, like what should be your approach of attempting the exams and how you should prepare before the exams. And then finally, whenever you are attempting a question, you should follow this technique. More you practice this technique, you will see you will be becoming more effective with this, and you'll be little faster in attempting the questions, and you'll be reaching to the correct answer more effectively and in a fast manner. So this was some inputs from my side regarding how you should approach your exam and attempt the questions. Now I'll quickly take you to a quick revision of various modules like first, second, and third. So let me just take the first module first of all. So I told you that if you want to prepare, clear this exam, the best approach is, first thing is, have a complete technical understanding of all the modules, all the terms, right? And second is, make sure you don't have confusions in English terminology and understanding English, right? And third is the technique. So I told you the technique. Rest part is technical knowledge. I'll give you a quick review now. And third part is, if you should have clarity in English, that you have to work on yourself, right? So let me just quickly take up. So we have 6 modules, right? And the first module talks about information system audit process. Idea is to have a clarity and understanding of how information system audit is executed, right? What is the process and what is the approach, step-by-step approach of doing information system audit, right? And idea is that you must have a clarity that why you are doing that particular task. Like there is a requirement of audit, right? And you need to understand the scope, objectives, what all is expected from that audit before you start the audit, right? So you must understand that first, and then you should follow a step-by-step process of auditing. And in between, you will be using some certain tools and techniques because you want to ensure complete accuracy. You want to ensure quick completion of audit, and you want to ensure that you deliver the objectives, right? And your auditing process will involve testing of controls, reviewing of controls, whether they are meeting the objectives of the operations or not, right? So there are so many things that happens during IS audit process, but you have to follow certain standard approach, and you must follow auditing standards so that you can maintain the quality and you can minimize the risk of audit, that is audit risk, right? So let's quickly take these concepts and related terminologies, and this would help you in reviewing the module, right? So if you know, the whole process is divided into 3 stages, that is planning, execution, and reporting. But what happens in planning? Planning is a phase where you have to put it on paper that what you want to do, how you are going to do it, right? So that totally depends on whether you have understood the audit assignment or not, right? So you need to read the audit engagement letter carefully, see the objectives, see the scope that has been defined, what is expected from you, and based on that, just study the environment where you have to do the audit, try to understand that system, right? So all those activities are your initial steps that are part of your planning. So you have to do all those things, and you have to understand the audit objectives, right? Or you may have to build your audit objectives in detail so that you can further plan. Now, once you have understood the objectives, environment, and the system and its components, the next thing is you have to do risk assessment based on the scope of your audit. Let's say your scope of the audit is security assessment of a data center of a bank. Okay, so it means that you have to understand what are the security operations in a data center. You have to review the documentation. You may have to visit that place, and you need to collect all the relevant details about what security operations are there in a data center. Now, it could be physical security, logical security, and it could be related to environmental security, right? So based on that, you have to collect all the security policies available there, what kind of control practices they have. So all this material data has to be collected, reviewed, and then you will execute your next step, that is risk assessment. Now, this is very important. Risk assessment is perhaps the most important step after understanding the audit assignment objectives and setting up the audit objectives. In risk assessment, our objective is to review what all risks are there in the organization, which may affect organization process. In our case, it is data center, right? And security operations of data center. So what are the risks? Okay, like your security operations may be down, or you may have power failure, your security operations are down, or maybe somebody has tried to enter your system, like unauthorized access is a risk. So you need to list out what are the various risks, and to take this input, you may review a risk profile of the organization, right? So you may ask what risk register they have or risk profile they have defined for their organization's data center. So you may have a lot of documentation available. So review that and identify all the risks which are material to them. If you don't have the document, you may have to do it manually by discussions or interviews, or maybe survey of that particular place, site. Once you identify the risk, next thing is you have to evaluate which risk is how much material. For that, there are two important parameters. One is probability of occurrence of risk. Second is impact of risk. So once you measure these two parameters for every risk, you get the quantum of that risk, right? So you have to multiply probability and impact, both two factors, and see what is the overall magnitude of the risk. So overall magnitude of the risk depends on two factors, probability of occurrence and impact. Once you multiply and compute the total result, so you get overall magnitude. Now you can have risk ranking based on like a decreasing order of the value, what you get. And now you can mark like which risks you want to, you recommend should be mitigated, which risk you feel should be accepted, and things like that. And you may have this information already available, right? Like risk profile, they might have already done risk assessment and risk profile is there. But if it is not there, you have to do it, right? And then based on this, you will see whether controls are available for those risks or not, right? And you have to identify which are the controls which relates to which risk. And then you have to make a plan that we have to test all these controls. Okay. So ultimately, if you see, planning phase is all about understanding the system, environment, and objectives, and set up your audit objectives. Once you're set up, then you have to do risk assessment, and you have to make your plan, which controls has to be tested against what objectives, right? So once this is ready, you will allocate your team members, your respective plans, which you have made for those team members, and they will start executing those plans. So they will have to go and do compliance testing, substantive testing, right? And they will see what are the control weaknesses available and how much is the impact of those control weaknesses. And they may have to go and check the logs and other detailed documentation to justify or to gain the understanding of their observation, whether they are actually matching with what exactly is happening in the system or not, right? And all these important observations and observations you need to record, and then you have to maintain audit evidence as well, like copy of the logs and all other relevant observations and data, substantive details that you have collected against control failures. So you have to prepare a report based on that, and then you have to present your report. And you may have follow-up, or you may highlight recommendations also if it is part of the audit scope. So this is a step-by-step process, right? And there are a lot of concepts and terms and techniques involved in this process. Let's quickly talk about that. When we are saying risk assessment, the idea is to assess which risks are material for the organization and its processes, right? And for that, I told you probability of occurrence and impact of the risk. These are two critical factors. And when you are doing risk assessment, you have to review all the processes, all the control operations, all the policies, documents, and all the activities that are happening, hardware, software, whatever components are there, which are in sync with your audit scope. So you have to study all those components which are part of your audit scope, and you have to identify whether there are risks associated with those things or not, right? And you may have different kind of risk. It could be operational risk, it could be your technology risk, it could be security risk, so performance risk. So idea is that you need to list out all the risks that may affect the scope which is highlighted in the audit assignment. So if it is performance, so you may have to identify those risks which relates to the performance issues in the organization. So risk assessment is done. So you have already identified the controls that you have to test. So there can be different kind of controls, like operating system controls, organizational controls. Like you have to ensure that everybody has a clearly defined roles and responsibilities, duties, and there is no overlapping conflict of interest, right? So you may have a big job at hand, right? So you must understand the nature of these controls before you start testing these controls, right? Like operating system control is there to ensure that activities in the operating systems are happening in a proper way. Like you have username, password for login, then there is a password policy in the system which ensures that you're updating your passwords or you're keeping your passwords in a complex manner. So you need to understand what are the controls, what is the nature of that control, and what is expected from that control. Once you understand that, I think you can simply go and test its operations, whether it is meeting the objectives or not, right? So there are so many different categories of controls, and every control has a specific objective associated with it. Like when we talk about data processing control, the idea is to ensure the data which is being input to the system gets processed and operated in a way which is acceptable for the system. So it means that, let's say there's a software which is there for computing income tax. So there are certain inputs, but then there will be a lot of computation after that inputs, and you'll get output. So now this computation, this processing part should meet what is required by the system. So it must include all the logics, all the calculation, all the formulas which are expected, and you have to measure it, right? By testing. You can pass input, you can check the output, right? And if it is correct, then it's okay. But then you have to internally check the logic also, whether they have included all, because many times what happens, you're passing the input, right? But it only relates to a specific scenario. For example, let's say income tax, and you are computing an income tax for an individual, which doesn't have any savings and other things, right? So the calculation would be a little different because that provision, those elements are not available, and it may give you correct result. But for another case where you have a lot of different elements, savings and donations and other things, you saw that there is a mistake in the calculation. The total result, which should be there, it is not there. So then it means now you have to look for detailed analysis that what is missing in this, why the calculation is wrong. For that, you need to check whether all the calculation formulas as prescribed by the process should be there in the software. So you have to do structural testing, means how the internal operations are happening, whether they have included all the saving clauses, donation clauses. If those things are there, then it's okay. But if it is not there, you'll be able to identify which element has led to this mismatch in the input and the expected output and the actual output. So it means when you are doing compliance testing, you have to test controls and you have to see whether they are meeting the objectives of the organizations or not. So now there are so many different controls, and I'm quite sure that you would have studied these things. So just go and quickly review what is expected from these controls. Like system development controls are there to ensure safe and secure development of the software, which meets the requirement of the user. So all those controls need to be reviewed and tested. BCP controls means control related to business continuity planning. If your business process or organization's process face any incident that turns out to be a crisis or a disaster, there should be a set of controls or practices which will make sure that your critical operation will still keep on working. right? And your controls will help you in recovering from that disaster in a acceptable manner, or expected, in the expected course of action, so that you can minimize the damages and the losses because of the disastrous operation. So control testing is something which you need to be very careful about. And as an auditor, you should make sure that you have skilled people for that particular task. Like if it is physical access controls, so you should deploy a person who is good at understanding physical controls and testing physical access control. So if it is about security controls, like network security control, you should make sure that the person that you are sending for evaluating those controls is good in security assessment, like ethical hacking or vulnerability assessment. And then you have to record your observations. Same way, if you are doing audit of a software application, then there is another category of controls like boundary controls, which take care of the security, like only authorized users should be able to access the application. Input controls are to ensure the valid value should get into the system. The only valid input should be entered in the system so that it doesn't lead to any unfavorable incidents. Then processing controls, as I mentioned, all the calculations should be there. Output controls means how we want the output. Exactly that should be generated by the system. Data file controls relate to how the data is getting stored. So if your data is at rest, like storage, you should make sure it is stored in an encrypted format, like cryptography control should be there, so that if anybody get access to this data, should not understand it, right? Or should not be able to misuse it. Only an authorized person should be able to read that data. So you can ensure this by having cryptographic controls around that. Then like you can have, what do you say, there is a concept called availability of information, and defining how longer it should be available, like the retention date, how long we have to make sure that the data should be kept in the system, right? And how long it should exist in the system. And there should be controls which ensure the retention date and proper handling of data, maintaining of data within your system. So there are so many controls which should be tested while you are doing audit of a software application. As I mentioned, compliance testing is testing of controls and expected compliance practices. For example, if I say that there is a banking application, and a particular transaction first has to be initiated by the operator, right, who has limited privileges, he can only initiate a transaction. Then it has to be reviewed. If it is a high value transaction, it has to be reviewed and approved by a manager. So it means the moment an operator initiates the transaction, and if it is high valued, automatically it should be sent to the manager for review and approval. But when you did the audit, you observed that there was a transaction which was a high value transaction above that threshold value, but it was not approved by the manager. So it is a observation that you have, material observation, which relates to non-meeting of compliance, breach of compliance, right? So it means compliance testing is testing of all the control practices which are there to ensure, proper operations in the organization in terms of the expected operations, in terms of access controls, in terms of compliance requirement, in terms of business objectives. So all those controls which are there, you have to test them, and there are various techniques, like you can you can test by performing that task, like re-performance, or you can have observations. You can have a kind of trials, or you can have some dummy testing by using some dummy data, right? Idea is to make sure that your operations and applications are working as expected, right? And if there are any variations, you can highlight and record as an observation. Then it totally depends on what kind of system you are talking about. Like if it is physical security, so the compliance testing or control testing could be the testing of entry logs, and then exit logs, then biometrics. It totally depends on the type of technology and type of systems which are there installed in the organization. Accordingly, you have to test the controls. to ensure compliance testing, right? Substantive testing is a supportive activity, right? Once you have done compliance testing, you may identify certain control gaps or weaknesses in the controls, right? So once you identify that weakness, you need to see how much is the impact of this weakness in the system. So you have to go into the system's database or the data source, and you can get all the transaction details, and you can identify, let's say there was a weakness in control, let's say unauthorized access attempts has been observed, or maybe like the example I mentioned, the transaction was approved executed without proper approval from the manager. Okay. So it means there are certain incidents which shows violation of compliance requirement or bypassing of control, or there is a control weakness. Now in detailed transactional data, we have to see how many times this has occurred and how much is the impact of this, right? And you have to highlight this thing in the report along with the evidence, right? So this is substantive testing, where you are doing detailed testing by getting into the details, transactions, data, logs, and you are trying to match it with your findings of compliance testing, right? Idea is to give a total understanding of how many control weaknesses are there and how much is the impact of those control weaknesses, right? And there's a relation that many times you may say that if your compliance testing is being completed and there is no major control weakness, so you may say that, okay, we don't have to go into too much of substantive testing, but we can minimize our substantive testing. So yes, this kind of relation is there between compliance testing and substantive testing, but it's always advisable to have a quick view of substantive data and detailed data, even if there is no control weakness, so that you don't miss out any material observation, right? And audit evidence is very important factor, and you have to collect it carefully and preserve it so that it is acceptable when you are preparing your report and it's not tampered one, right? So these are some of the things that you have to take care of. And types of evidence could be some recording, like some observations shared by somebody, or some documentation, or some screenshots, or maybe some system state. Like, for example, you are taking the copy of the log file in the system as an evidence to show on what incidents there was non-compliance, and the transaction was approved by was executed without the approval of manager. Okay, so for that you may have to take the copy of the log as an evidence, right? And you may have analytical procedures, like you have a lot of data in the transactions and you want to just show that which are the transactions which have been executed without control, proper control verification or authorization or approval. So out of all that data, you may have to analyze and check what are those transactions, right? So based on the time stamping and where the approval is not there, you may have to filter that data and you may have to extract that data, or you may have to do inquiries. And during inquiries, whatever observation you are having, maybe in the form of interview or some textual form is there, or data which you have got from the people whom you have inquired, that also can be considered as an evidence, and you should include it in the report. So there can be other evidences, like the measurements that you are having based on performance measurements or your observations, that should also be properly recorded so that you can put it as potential evidence. Timing of evidence, and there should be a careful attempt on ensuring reliability of the evidence. So it means when you are collecting the evidence, you must have somebody around you, so that there is a witness when you are collecting, when you are preserving the evidence, so that it is acceptable. So those formal things are there. You should take care of that also. And most of the time, when we are talking about digital systems, the data is huge. So you just cannot do things manually. So you have to rely on CAD tools, right? And CAD tools are software tools which can help you in processing huge amount of data and identify control weaknesses or gaps in the operations, right? So tools like ACL, IDEA, you have many other tools like there is another tool called Microsoft Power BI, and many more tools are there. But you have to make sure that the tool that you are selecting is the one which doesn't allow you to edit the data. If you are using a tool for audit which is allowing you editing data, then your evidence would not be acceptable, right? So you have to make sure that you are using the tools which records whatever you are doing on the data, right? So that your evidence and your results of the evidence, your analysis can be acceptable, is acceptable, right? So your tools can help you in exception identification, control analysis, error identification, and you can, if the data is huge, you can have sampling and you can test the samples whether the compliance are met or not. But nowadays, when we talk about digital softwares and tools, you can have 100% coverage also. You don't have to go for sampling things because now we have sophisticated tools with a lot of capability, and we have cloud-based software tools available so that you can handle more and more huge amount of data, and there is no limitation in terms of how much data you can handle, so that you have to go for sampling kind of technique. So you can have 100% coverage of data set also. And you can do many other things using CAT tools like fraud detection. You can identify fraudulent transactions based on the patterns by using SQL or maybe some artificial intelligence also, if you have a huge amount of data and multiple rules are there. So CAT tools are there which can help you do all these different kind of things like duplicate check or reasonableness check and consistency and other business logics. So there are different types of tools that you can use. And when you are doing audit of any application, software application, before you start testing the control, you must understand the objective of the application, the business expectations, business goal, nature of the business, so that you can plan your audit in a proper way, volume of transactions, regulatory structure, regulatory requirements. Like if it is an insurance software, insurance application software, so you must understand what are the compliance requirements for insurance operations and nature of business and what are the business operations, how it has been structured, who is the system administrator, who approves the transactions or like insurance claims and all, who are the all users involved in the process. So if you understand all those things, I think you are in a better position to plan and execute your compliance testing and substantive testing. So there are different kind of application which you may encounter during your audits. And these are some of the control objectives for every software application, right? So, every software has certain input. So when you are passing the input, the source data should be prepared properly in a correct manner or in an approved and authorized manner. So there would be certain controls which will ensure source data preparation and authorization. So you must test that those controls are effective so that you ensure that the input is correct. Once the data is prepared correctly, it should be collected and entered properly. So there will be controls which will be ensuring that the user who is entering the data after the preparation, after the data is available, enters in a correct manner. There is no mistake, right? And the system is designed in a way which take care of input validation and many other things. And once that is done, after that, it's all about ensuring the accuracy of the data, completeness of the data, and authenticity checks. Like only authorized and authentic people should be allowed to carry out their operations. So you must have security controls around it. And then the processing integrity, like computation should happen as per the business rules, right? And finally, the output should be generated in a way which is acceptable for different stakeholders, and it should not reveal any unnecessary information which may lead to data misuse or data privacy breach, right? And finally, transaction authentication and integrity. You must make sure only the right person is doing the transaction and without any manipulation in between, right? So that there is correct operations throughout the business application. So these are some of the control objectives. I think they are in sync with the objectives stated by COBIT framework for any application audit, software application audit. So for every application, any software application, there are controls like I mentioned earlier, also like boundary for security, input for write input, processing for logics, and ensuring data is stored in a proper format and it is encrypted, and output should be only produced in a format which is acceptable to the target audience. So this was our first module. These were some of the concepts. I'll quickly take up the second one now, and I'll talk about the module concepts of module 2, so that we can quickly take up these terms, and you can quickly revise and review what are all important terms in module 2 are. So module 2, as we saw, module 1 talks about IS audit process and application audits. Module 2 has a different objective, right? Module 2 talks about that IS auditor is not limited to only application audit or audit of a software application, right? In an information system or for any organization, there's a hierarchy. Like there is a top management whose role is to ensure that there are proper guidelines, there are proper mechanisms and processes in place to ensure proper operations in the organization, right? And there is a setup which evaluates, which directs, and which monitors whether the organization is operating in an acceptable manner and whether we are able to achieve our objectives or not. So IS auditor doesn't, the role of IS auditor is not limited to just application audits. IS auditor role is very critical at governance level also, at management level also, at various other roles like risk management, compliance assurance, business continuity management. So the objective behind module 2 is to give you an insight that how IS auditor can contribute and can perform activities or practices like governance audit, management process audit, and how the processes are managed in the organization, risk management audit, compliance audit, and BCM, business continuity management audit, right? So these are some of the technical concepts which are part of module 2, and you have certain practice areas when we when we talk about module 2. So module 2 is related to understanding what are the practices of top management, middle management, and operational people, staff, and to ensure that all the risk associated with these operations or business operations are being managed properly, and we are meeting the compliance requirements, right? And in case if there is any disaster that happens around the organization, we must have adequate practices so that we can minimize the impact and we can quickly recover from the disaster. So module 2 talks about all these kind of professional practices. Now, when it comes to governance, there are a lot of terminologies like enterprise governance, there is corporate governance, then there is business governance, right? So there is governance of enterprise IT. Many times members feel like these are interrelated terms. Yes, definitely these are interrelated terms, but we must have clarity about what is the purpose of every single term so that we can have a better understanding of our audit assignment, and we can deliver the expected results during our audit, right? So when I say governance audit, if you have got, let's say you have got an assignment of governance audit of any organization, so you must have clarity that, okay, in governance audit, our job would be to review whether the top management is doing their practices as per expectations or not, okay? Now, what is the role of top management? If you have gone through this COVID framework, you can understand that's the best practice framework for defining what are the governance processes in any organization, right? Whether it is about setting up a corporate governance framework or governance framework, whether it is benefit realization, whether it is your risk optimization, whether it is resource optimization, right? All these are major objectives for any top management. And what we can do as an auditor is we need to understand the nature of their operations, like evaluate, direct, and monitor. So we must make sure that there are set of practices defined and are followed by all the top management people, where they are evaluating the processes, whether they are directing the processes, like security policies and other business policies are drafted very clearly as per the policies, or perhaps as per the objectives of the organization. And finally, monitoring, EDM, evaluate, direct, and monitor. Monitor means they regularly monitor the performance of the organization, and they initiate proper, updations or recommendations or regular review of their work is done in a proper manner. So governance audit focus on reviewing the task of top management and related practices. Now there are terms, there are so many terms. When we say enterprise governance, means we are talking about governance where three objectives are there: evaluate, direct, monitor, for the whole enterprise. Okay. Now this may further can be categorized into two subcategories, that is enterprise governance and business governance. Enterprise governance focus on compliances, stakeholders, and other related practices, whereas business governance focus on the benefit, return on investment, the margin, profit margins, and the performance of the organization. Right now, these are two different kind of objectives. One ensure compliances and sustainability. The other one ensures the profitability. Right. So the idea is we have to maintain a balance. Right. If you focus too much on profits and returns, you may miss out certain critical requirements, compliance requirements, or maybe stakeholders requirements. So, and if you spend too much effort on your compliance requirements and stakeholders' interests and other things, it may happen that your profit margins may go down, right? So it means you just cannot survive by focusing only on either business governance or corporate governance, right? So there should be a balance. So to ensure this balance, you must have some structured approach, some systematic approach. And considering IT infrastructure and IT environment, it's very challenging to balance corporate governance and business governance. So for that, there is a concept called governance of enterprise IT. Approach has been defined, a concept has been defined, which is motivated with the philosophy that we have to balance corporate governance and business governance. So instead of worrying about how we will balance this, I think we can have a GEIT framework, practice statements, which will ensure that we are meeting all our compliance requirements, all our corporate governance requirements, all our business governance requirements. So that's where a framework for governance of enterprise IT or GEIT comes into picture. And you might have studied about COVID framework, which defines set of processes, and within those processes, there are set of practices, right? So as an auditor, your job is to check whether all those practices are defined and implemented through the controls in the organization, right? So that's the approach that you have to follow to execute your governance and management audit. Okay, so let's quickly look at some of the highlights of this module. There is enterprise governance, conformance, that is corporate governance, performance or business governance, then governance framework, which can give you a structured approach on meeting a balance between these two different requirements, right? And you need to understand that means you must have clarity about these terminologies so that you can perform your audit properly and you can answer your questions in a correct manner. So you must understand that the purpose behind governance operations is to ensure proper guidelines and proper policies across the organization so that there is a clarity about roles and responsibility of individuals, right? So make sure that the top management has set up the policies which highlights business objectives, and they clearly express the expectations of the organizations and intentions of the organization in running the business, so that everybody has the clarity, right? And then there should be organization structure, roles and responsibilities should be defined in a manner that there is no overlapping. There should be a clear segregation of duties, and there are tools for that. Like you might have studied about the RACI chart, RACI chart, RACI. R is for responsibility, A is for accountability, C is for consulting, and I is for information. So for every individual, you must define what are their roles for certain activities, right? Let's say data collection is an activity. Who is responsible for that, for a certain process? Who is accountable for that? So who should be consulted if there is any problems, and who should have the information about this? Like the manager must have information of what data is collected, how data is collected. So means you can define individuals and their roles across the business operations. And there's a tool called RASI chart for that. Okay. Now, for every organization, there are so many different kind of risks, and we must have a risk management process for that organization. And as an auditor, you may get an audit assignment where you have to do risk management audit. Now, how to do risk management audit? You can only do risk management audit if you understand the risk management process. And risk management process is a step-by-step activity, and it is a cyclic activity. It's not a one-time activity, because risk is not a static entity. It keeps on changing, it keeps on evolving over a period of time, right? There could be a particular risk which may gets lower with the passage of time, but there may be certain risk which keeps on increasing with the passage of time, right? For example, more and more technology adoptions really makes any organization to move online, right? And from your in-house operation, in-house management of infrastructure, if you're moving to the cloud, so the point is the risk, that is information security and other related risks, are increasing, right? So you may have to think of upgrading your control practices, coming up with new, better control practices so that you can minimize that risk, right? So to ensure risk doesn't affect your organizations, we must have this process called risk management. And the first step in risk management is identification of risk, as we discussed earlier also. Once you identify the risks, second is assessment, evaluation. For that, you can do that again, magnitude of the risk and probability of occurrence. Once you multiply that, you get the overall magnitude. Based on that, you can see what are the risk responses which we may practice. There would be some risk, like inherent risk, which you cannot do much about. You cannot control them. So in that case, you have to accept the risk, and then you may define the risk appetite, or you may go for a risk sharing strategy where you can go for insurance or maybe partnership with some other firms. So means once you identify and evaluate the risk, you should define risk responses. But the responsibility of defining risk responses is not of IS auditor. What response has to be taken up, it has to be decided by the organization, top management, or the person in charge, right? And once those responses are defined, you must define adequate control practices against that. So a risk management process is a process which ensures proper operations in an organization, and the objective is to contain all the risks, right? So you must study all the business operations, and you must evaluate what all risks are there, and then you must define proper control practices based on risk responses, right? But this has to be done by the organization and their representative. As an auditor, you have to review this process, whether this has been done properly or not, whether they have identified all the risks, whether they have evaluated the risk in a correct manner, whether they have selected the right risk responses based on the criticality of the risk, right? If the risk is highly critical, it should not be shared. Shared should be a second strategy. First strategy should be to mitigate that risk. There should be control practices to mitigate that risk, right? So this is how you can review this. And then you can review whether they have a cyclic process or not, whether they review their risk profile every cycle, during every cycle. It could be quarterly, half yearly, or yearly, based on the business operation and its criticality. So you must have to check whether they are following all what is expected from the risk management process or not. So this is a very interesting practice area for all of you, risk management audit. And there are standards also, like ISO standards for risk management process. So you can take important inputs from that also while you are performing your risk management audit, right? And governance objectives normally focus on benefit realization, risk optimization, and resource optimization. So you should make sure that there are properly defined practices to achieve these governance objectives, and there are proper internal controls around these activities. Then there are compliances like GDPR, Personal Data Protection Bill 2019. Then you have what do you call then there is PCI DSS. There could be business continuity related compliance requirement, security requirements like ISO compliance requirements, ISO 27001 or maybe 33001, and many more, right? So every organization, when they have to run their business, may have to abide by certain compliance requirements. Like this GDPR talks about data privacy. Let's say if you are collecting clients' data for delivering business services, it's your responsibility to ensure you are not misusing this data, or you are using this data only for required purpose, not beyond that. And second thing, you have to make sure that the data that you have collected is preserved and is safe, and it is not getting accessed by anybody, whether through authorized or unauthorized manner, right? So it's your responsibility. And if you don't meet this responsibility, it would be considered as violation of compliance, right? And you may have to face consequences for such lapse, right? So it's basically compliance failure, right? So there may be different compliance requirements for every organization, every business process. So you must follow those guidelines which are related to those compliance to test whether organization meets those or not. And after governance risk compliance, there is one most important thing for any organization, that is performance measurement, right? You may have high class operations and people out there who are doing excellent work. But if you're not measuring the performance of your operation, you cannot have assurance whether you will be meeting your business objectives or not. So performance measurement is a very important task. And for that, you need to record specific data, and you need to analyze that data to analyze the performance. And there are so many practices available and tools available, and balance scorecard can be considered as a good practice where you have a clear focus on what you have to measure, and then you can compare it with what we were expecting. And if we don't meet our targets, we can recommend proper initiatives or improvements by which we can achieve our targets. So there can be 4 perspectives like financial, customer, internal business processes, and learning and growth. These are the 4 perspectives against which we can measure any organization's performance, right? And there is another concept called IT balance scorecard. There we can have some more perspectives, especially talking about the, what do you say, stakeholders' concerns like compliances and all, right? Beside your normal financial, customer, and process related measurement. You can have measurement of whether we are meeting compliances and whether we are delivering stakeholders' need or not. So try and focus on every term, every tool in a precise manner, because you may get a lot of questions around that. So performance measurement is a very important practice under module 2. And last segment under module 2 is business continuity management, where our focus is on checking whether organization has adequate provisions to address any incident, crisis, or disastrous situations that may occur in the organization. It could be man-made or it could be natural, but we must have adequate practices in place, like contingency plan. Means the moment you see anything unusual going out of control, you must initiate your contingency plan or emergency plan, like evacuation of the people, shutting up operations or critical operations, or whatever is your part of contingency plan that should be executed immediately, right? And when we talk about contingency plan, there are so many things that comes into that category, right? First thing is, we have, let's go step by step. Let's assume there is an incident. The moment there is an incident, you must make sure that you take adequate response or adequate action against that incident. And that can only be there if you have a document available, clearly understandable by every individual in the organization, right? The document is referred as incident response plan. Whenever there is an incident, whether it is a fire incident or a software error incident or a physical damage or a hardware failure. So every incident which may happen in your organization, you must have a document ready which highlights how a particular incident has to be dealt with, right? That document is referred as incident response plan. But there may be a possibility that we might not be able to imagine what all incidents are possible. So, but at least we have certain incident response plan, and we have a practice defined that if we encounter any new incident which is not there in the plan, we must take means learn lessons from that. We must build experiences based on that incident. And once we have contained it by involving experts or maybe some external people, we must update our incident response plan with all those new inputs, so that our incident response plan is updated. And in the future, if similar incident occurs again, we can have minimum damages. Same way, there's another document called business continuity plan that comes into picture when we have a serious disaster. Okay. And the disaster is really having serious damages in our primary operational site, right? So it means that our primary site has been disrupted. For example, let's say there's a software company, right? And they have a unit across, they have various units all over the India or world. Now they have interconnected operations. Let's say there is a flood in one of the states, say Tamil Nadu, or maybe some city like Chennai, or maybe some city like any city, there is a flood, right? Now what happens is, let's say in that city, that software company is having their unit. And let's say because of that flood, that whole operation has been disrupted because of the power supply and everything. There is nothing available. So they cannot even run their emergency generators and all, because of the risks and issues, because the intensity of the flood and the damages are severe. So what to do? So means there should be a business continuity plan. So if there is a serious disruption which has hampered continuity of the operation, we must have some alternative arrangement. In such case, our critical operations, some of the critical operations which are mandatory and minimum required for the organization, should be available to be executed and operational on some alternative site. Okay. For example, we can have online, cloud-based operation, so that we don't have to visit to that campus, even if we are in a place where we don't have that flood, like we have moved to a place which is not affected by the flood. We can go there and we can connect through VPN, and through that we can connect to cloud, and we can continue our critical operations. Or there can be an alternative arrangement, like let's say we have a flood in Chennai, so nearby city, whosoever city is there, let's say the nearby city is Bangalore, where we have another unit, business unit. So we can relocate our people in the Bangalore for the time being, till our primary site gets back to the normal. So we can transfer, we can move the people to the Bangalore unit, and we can ensure they can continue their operation from that place. So there can be different approaches for continuity. Totally depends on the requirement of the organization and the kind of business they are doing, right? But the purpose of business continuity plan is, if there is a disruption in primary site, the business should continue on alternative site. And the last one is disaster recovery plan. That comes into picture with an objective that we have to recover from the disaster, like whatever damages has been done by the disaster at our primary site, we have to recover. We have to initiate a recovery of the system, recovery of the site, restoration of the site, and then starting the systems again, means recovering the data from the backups and all, and setting up the system as before disaster, to make it as operational as it was before the disaster, right? So the job of disaster recovery plan is different. Objective of business continuity plan is different. Incident response plan is different. And there is another term called BIA. This is very important term, and you may get a lot of questions around it. Business impact analysis is a process that we have to do, or activity we have to do, to make sure or to identify the critical processes in the organization. Because when it comes to disaster, and we are preparing our organization for disaster management, or business continuity management, we know that we have limited funds available. We just cannot have a duplicate effort for setting up another business organization, which is copy of our business organization, just with the purpose that if our primary organization fail or setup fails, we have a copy available. So we just cannot have that kind of a setup, right? So the point is, we have to identify which are the processes which are critical. Let's say if there is a disruption, so not everything has to be restored immediately. There are certain things which are most critical and they should be available and they should be running even if there is a disaster. Let's say you are talking about banking services. If there is a flood in one city and all the branches are affected, that doesn't mean that you cannot avail the banking services. There should be a mechanism available, or critical functionality should be still available and running. Like you can have net banking, mobile banking, right? Or you can have facility where you can run your disrupted operations on an alternative sites. For example, let's say there is a manufacturing unit. If they have some serious problem in their primary plant where their manufacturing is happening, so they must have some secondary site where they can initiate manufacturing after a certain period of delay or like a bit of preparation. So business impact analysis focuses on identifying the critical processes which required alternative arrangement. Not everything can be put on alternative arrangement, right? So BIA is a analysis where we are identifying critical business operations which needs to be ready on alternative sites in case there's a disaster, right? So that's the job of BIA, and it helps us in identifying operation which needs continuity when we have disaster. So you must have clear understanding and comparison about all these things. And when we talk about business continuity management, our objective is to set up a process which take care of all these three: incident response plan, business continuity plan, and disaster recovery plan. So business continuity management take care of all these three segments. So we must have proper teams to ensure all these respective tasks, and there should be clear defined duties, no overlapping, and there should be regular testing of these plans so that when the disaster actually happen, we are ready and we are responding with all effort. Okay, backups can be of different types. Like if you're taking backup of your data, so full backup completely, you are whatever operation you're doing, you are taking a full copy of that. Incremental means you are not taking complete backup, only whatever work has been done today or new things you are taking as backup on top of whatever was taken last time. Differential and incremental, they are quite similar, but there is a difference. There are certain industries or business operation where we talk about incremental backup, but there are certain systems where we talk about differential backup. The difference lies between the nature of the data and the structure of the data. Let's say you create files every day, so you will only take backup of those files which have been created today, right? That is what incremental backup is. But differential backup comes into picture. Let's say you work on the same file again and again every day. So instead of taking that file, you will only focus on the changes that you have made. So whatever changes, new changes have been executed today, you will only take that as a backup. So that is what is referred as differential backup. Mirror backup is exact copy. And then there can be different options when it comes to alternative sites like mirror site, hot site, cold site, warm site, or similar kind of facility in nearby. Like, and then there can be what do you call storage, like backup sites like data vaults where you are keeping backup, or on-site or off-site vaults where you are keeping backup of your data, right? Then you must regularly test your BCP, like your mock drills can be done or checklist-based testing can be done so that to ensure that your all business continuity practices are effective. And when the need arises, they can be operationalized. So this is all in module 2. And let me quickly take up you to the module 3 as well. I think we are running short of time. So let me just quickly give you insights about module 3. The objective of module 3 is to give you understanding about another aspect of IS auditing, right? We talked about IS audit process. We talked about IS audit governance, compliance, and other things. And finally, there is another perspective, like system development. Many times to run your business organizations, you need to set up software applications. You need to set up IT infrastructure, and you may have to acquire software applications. And there may be a requirement of maintaining those applications and regular assessment of those applications and systems. So So in this case, there are a lot of different kind of audit assignments like SDLC audit, acquisition audit, maintenance audit, change management audit, and there are so many other practices around. Project management, again, is a very important practice area. A lot of terminologies are there. So let me quickly take you through those terms. I think we don't have much time. So there are stages in project, and you must have adequate controls around it, and control practices defined so that managers take care of these practices and they achieve their expected targets. Like they should not let project overshoot the expected time and budget. So as an auditor, you have to make sure there are adequate control practices that ensures that. So you must identify all the risk and must ensure there are controls in practice. SDLC is a software development process. So there are a lot of tools available which can ensure timely completion and quality, right? So you must ensure that these software tools are used by the organizations for their development process. And there are tools like PERT, CPM, and Gantt chart, which managers should use to ensure completion of your softwares with quality and on time, right? Gantt chart is for scheduling, CPM is for controlling and the execution of process and reshuffling of resources so that it gets completed on time. And PERT is for estimation, how much time a project task takes for completion. Then SDLC is a step-by-step process, and it is normally executed to develop new softwares for our organization requirement. And requirement can be driven by pain points or some challenges like competitors or market demands or change in compliance requirement. So you need to develop a software, and there is a step-by-step process for developing software. And as an OS auditor, you must make sure that all objectives of every steps have been covered while developing that software. Otherwise, it may not meet the requirements. So there are a lot of terminologies. Please quickly go through these things, and a lot of literature is available. I think it's really high time I should pass on the flag to our next faculty member. Idea is software development is a complex process, and you will get a lot of questions related to the software testing part, configuration management, like change management. So please try and practice these questions. And I wish you all the best for your exams. I have addressed some quick techniques and planning approach on how you can plan and execute your plan for your exams. I wish you all the best. That's all from my side. In case you have still any queries, you can take the contact number from organizing committee of this event. We can have offline discussions. Thank you all. Thank you, Sonia ma'am. And over to you for next segment of the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful deliberation. I must say you hold a unique way to convey your ideology. Give an insight into the small things that matters a lot, like a roadmap, break of 1 minute, putting stress not only on terms, but on terminology too. And at last, assessing the magnitude of risk and approach. So I must say the completeness of a topic along with the dedication to explain to other is a dual quality you possess, sir. So we are having one question from Samiji from Mumbai. He asked, where is more question paper he can get?
I think ICI has already published a lot of question banks, and there is a book which is having a title like 80 practice papers, right? A title is there, and you can go and contact your regional branch and you can ask them to get these copies for you from central branches, right? There is huge material available, question banks, practice papers are there, which has the exact same format as it is asked in the exams. So I think that would help you a lot.
Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and providing us with the tips, tricks, and strategies to crack the exam. And now we have with us another eminent speaker for the today's session, Avinash Gokhale, sir, a man of technical expertise and professional excellence. A mentor like Avinash, sir, are godsend. We are grateful to have you, sir, in our session today. And he is a person who is a BSc Technology, DAM, DCM, and CISA. He is currently impaneled with the ICI from last 20 years for conducting information security and audit session. And he is also impaneled with the ISACA Mumbai Chapter 4 CISA course. And along with that, more than 14 years, he has been a visiting faculty for the Comptroller Auditor Journal for IS audit courses and corporate standard. He is practicing in statutory audit of banks along with audit firms for ensuring designing, implementation, and cooperation of ITGC and ITAC audit control framework as per the RBI guidelines. He has also conducting information system audit and security audits for banks, insurance companies, hospitals, chemical companies, etc., and conducted several audits in overseas like US, UK, and Dubai. So he is having a teaching experience of more than 20 years. He's a personality who is putting his efforts to share the knowledge and experience with professional fellow. And prior to audit, which was started in 1999, he has its own software development IC project and data processing company from 1985 to 1999. Thank you so much, sir. We welcome you.
Yeah. Thanks for kind words, madam. Are you able to hear me properly?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, let me share my presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay, so without much delay, I will go to, this is my introduction already done, so I will not spend time on this. I will be sharing this PPT with all the students, so you don't have to take down anything. But this is a disclaimer which I generally give in all my presentations, that this material is my material, and the views and the illustrations and the whatever ideas which I have given in this presentation, they are of mine. And Institute of Chartered Accountant has no, apart from, of course, ICAI's PPTs and material, they don't have any say in this, or they don't have, I mean, they are not liable for any thing. So this is my agenda for today's presentation, my part. First is what is the syllabus for the ISA 3.080 exam. Most of you know, but I want to stress upon some points so that it will be quite clear. Exam format also, you all know that it's a multiple choice questions, 200 questions to be answered in 4 hours. Then what is the approach towards this examination, changing mindset and how you should study. Then ideas for selecting correct option, how you can select a correct option. And I have also given basic concepts you must know. I will be talking about module 4 and 5 mainly. Module 6 is, you know, it's emerging technologies, so it doesn't have much, you know, concepts apart from 6 concepts. But I will be talking more on module 4 and module 5, and what the basic concepts you should know, not only for module 4 and module 5, but for all the modules. These basic concepts about IT, fundamentals of IT, they are very essential. But I will not be taking much time. I'll be sharing that Word document with you. I'll be just giving you overview over here. And there are some links which you can use for learning. And that also I will be sharing with you. So the entire PPT I am going to share with you. So this is our syllabus. Now in this syllabus, please remember that in our syllabus, e-learning is also very important. So this e-learning is very important, which most of the people I have written here, e-learning, most of the students ignore this. But in this e-learning, most of the basic concepts or fundamentals about IT has been clarified. So therefore, if you have gone through e-learning, I would request you that please again go through e-learning very seriously, because most of the fundamental concepts, many students ask us these fundamental concepts when we take classes, but these concepts are to be learned through e-learning. So therefore, e-learning is must. And there will be questions which are asked on these fundamental concepts which have been dealt with in the e-learning. Second important thing is about, of course, the course material. So course material, PDF files and the 6 books have been given to you. So that is also very important. Third thing which students, most of the students miss is our case studies. Each chapter has got 2 case studies. So that means, except module 6. So each module has got 2 case studies. So in all, there are 10 case studies. So these case studies also are important because questions can come on these case studies also. Okay, I have got some sample questions which can be asked on the case studies also, and I will give you the idea as to how to approach these questions. Then fourth one is the lab manuals. We have done in all the modules, 5 modules, 2 labs, especially module 4, module 5. There are 2 labs which we have done, and therefore the questions can come on these lab manuals, whatever we have done, that also. So please also study lab manuals. And of course, then finally the PPTs which are given by the institute. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you have to remember to study, not only course material. 5 things: e-learning, course material, case studies, lab manuals, PPT. Okay. Now I have given here the modules and their percentage of marks. So if you notice here, module 5 has got maximum percentage. Okay. Then module 3 has got 18%, module 4 has got 18%, and module 1 has got 18%. Now, as Dr. Vinay Kumar has given the briefing about module 1, 2, 3, I would say that module 1 is non-technical. So you can definitely get maximum marks in module 1. Module 2 is also non-technical. I mean, I would say that technology is not much in these 2 modules. Module 3 is semi-technical. That means there is a technology also and there is a non-technical portion also. Module 4 is completely technical. Some non-technical portion is there, but very less. And module 5 is also completely technical. And module 6, even though it is emerging technologies, it is completely technical. Okay, so for chartered accountants, these 2 modules are going to be easier. This is next easy module, and these modules are going to be slightly difficult. Okay, so 22 plus 18, that is around 40 plus 8, 48% will be technical. 18% is semi-technical, and this is 4, and 34% is non-technical. Okay, so this is the first thing which I wanted to tell you. So try to focus on module 1 and 2 so that out of 18%, you should get maximum questions correct. Okay, try to understand basic concepts for understanding module 4 and 5. I will give you a word file, and if we get time, I'm going to explain some basic concepts here. Not explain, but I will show you some basic concepts over here. So therefore, as I said, that this is the ISA 3.080, 200 marks, and passing criteria is 60% marks flat. So that means out of 200, you should get 120 questions correct straight away, period. Okay, then you will be declared as a pass. Of course, apart from that, ET and your other class tests, etc., also will be considered. But here, if you get out of 200, 120 questions correct, then you are passing ATA. So this is the link where, are you able to see this link? Is it visible? I hope it is visible. So this is what I have taken from the Institute's guidelines, course structure. So I hope all of you have this particular course structure. If you not, I will be sharing this with you. Exam format is multiple choice questions. MCQs are asked, question and 4 options. You have to choose the correct option. Correct option selection gives you full marks. Wrong option selection gives you 0 marks. So these multiple choice questions, they are going to test not the knowledge itself, but the application of the knowledge. This is very important. all multiple choice question exams, whether it is DISA or whether it is IIM Ahmedabad or whether it is any exam, they don't test the knowledge of the student, but they test how the knowledge can be applied to solve a problem. So this fact you have to remember. Now here I have taken an example question. Okay, so I have prepared this presentation from the student's perspective. I forgot that I am a faculty for some portion, and I have prepared this from the focus of the student. So how does a SIM tool handle the issue of completeness of log? Okay, so this is a question. Now, usually in the question, such short forms will not be used, or if they are used, they will give the full form also. Because as a SIM, if I don't know the short form, then I will be confused, right? Usually in the question, they will give full form. That is, this is Security Information and Event Management System. But let us assume that they have not given the full form. So that means now I don't know, when I read the question, I don't know what is SIM tool, right? So that is a question mark in my mind. And then when I read the next question, handle the issue of completeness of log. So what is really asked in this is that how completeness of log is handled by a tool. Let us forget for the time being SIM. So how the completeness of log is handled by the tool. This is the in short the question. Now I don't know what is SIM, right? So these four options have been given now in front of me. So I will go through these four options. First option is encryption. So what is encryption? I have studied the ISA modules, and therefore I definitely know that encryption means the text will not be in plain text. It will be converted into an encrypted form. Okay. So therefore this I understand. This particular word I understand. Okay. Next word is hashing. Next option is hashing. I don't understand what is hashing. Okay. So this is a doubtful for me. Somehow this pen is not working properly. So hashing is a question mark for me. This I know. Digital signing. Okay. Now signing means that I sign on a paper or I digitally sign the data. Okay. So digital signing also I understand what it is. And the next option is time stamping. So this option also I have understood that there will be a timestamp on each log entry. See here the question is asking about the completeness of log entry. That means on each log entry there will be a timestamp. So with this analysis, now let me see whether encryption is an answer. Okay. Now encryption is encrypting the data. Okay. So will it ensure completeness of log? The answer is no, because it is just encrypting the data. That means the data will not be readable easily. Correct. So therefore encryption will not tell me about completion. Now hashing I don't know. So I'm skipping this for the time being. Digital signing. So do I know that if each entry is, or if the logs are digitally signed, will it amount to completion? What signing does in our ordinary day-to-day life, if somebody signs, means that it is the identification and authentication that I have. I am identifying myself and I am saying that whatever is there, it is correct. But it again doesn't give me the completeness feeling. Okay, it doesn't tell me that it is complete. Timestamp could be an answer. Timestamp could be an answer, because by timestamp we come to know that, oh, it is timestamp. So there is a chance that we will jump to this answer. Okay, but imagine that timestamping means what? Each log entry will be put a timestamp. Now, will you, just by looking at a document, will you, and having a timestamp, will you know that all the documents which I have been given, are they complete? Just by looking at the timestamp, I will not know that the log is complete. Okay. So therefore, here what I have done is, this is also a method of elimination. I have definitely eliminated encryption. digital signing and timestamping. Even though I don't understand what is hashing, I will select hashing as the answer. So this is the answer. So in actual examination, if a question comes wherein you don't understand some terms, okay, don't worry, go to what is asked. What is asked here is a simple question, completeness of log. So I have to know completeness of log. Now it is better that if you know hashing, then immediately you will come to the conclusion that hashing is a measure, or hashing is an indicator for the completeness of the log. Okay, but suppose if you don't know hashing, so here in this question and these options, I do not know two terms. One is SIM. What is SIM? But it is some kind of a tool because that is mentioned. I don't know hashing, but most probably I would be knowing encryption, digital signing, and timestamping. Okay, so each question I will say, is it going to, each option I will take and I will ask myself that will it tell me about completeness of log? Okay, and I will conclude that encryption is not telling me about completeness. Digital signing just tells me about identification and authentication. Timestamping only tells me time of each entry in the log. So therefore, even though I don't know hashing, give that answer. So my point is that it is difficult sometimes for a chartered accountant to know all the terminologies. Okay, it is better if you know hashing terminology, but if you don't know, this is one method which you can use in order to come to the option correctly. So here, this is one method. I have taken some other sample questions in which I will give you different ideas as to how to come to a correct option. Now, the most important thing, if you ask me, in this ISA exam or in any kind of exam or day-to-day life or in your whole life, okay, is changing mindset. So if you can change mindset, especially if you are doing some difficult task, if you can change mindset, okay, that will solve your 50 or even more than 50% of the problem. Now, what mindset you have to change? First thing is that you have to be sincere and committed, similar to when you were going to give CA exam. Because if you don't become CA, you will be just BCom. You were knowing about that, and therefore you were utmost sincere while you were studying for CA or while you were giving CA exam, because that was your basic qualification. I know that ISA may not be basic qualification, but you have to be sincere and committed. This is the first mindset change which you have to do. Second thing, important thing is that take your family and friends into confidence and tell them that I am going to give a very important exam in my career. So please forgive me if I don't attend any parties or any other social functions. Okay, for maybe 2 months or 3 months. Okay, it will be a commitment of only 2-3 months. I will tell you that also. Motivate yourself and have positive mindset. Today onwards, do not think of failure at all. Today onwards, you think that you are DISA. Now you have to only give exam and pass, that's all. But you are already DISA. As soon as you start thinking, if I don't pass, don't think of that at all. Because as soon as that seed goes into your mind that if I fail, then that seed starts growing slowly. And all your efforts will be toward the direction of failure rather than toward the direction of passing. So therefore, keep in your mind that you are already at ISA. Now you have to just pass the exam. That's all. Having said that, you have to prepare yourself. Therefore, you have to solve a lot of questions and ask difficulties to faculties. I will be giving you my number. I will be giving you my email IDs. Whatever comes to your mind about any module, anything, please ask me without any hesitation. And while practicing the mock exam, if you give correct answer, suppose for a particular question, let's say by luck or by method, you gave a correct answer. Also see the other options. What is wrong, that also you have to know. What is correct, you have to know. But what is wrong, that also you have to know. So that a knowledge will happen in your mind in such a way that you know what is wrong and what is right. Method of elimination, which I will explain a little later. How to study. Okay. Now, my advice is don't follow anybody's advice. That is generally my advice. Means what? That whoever tells you to do something, even me, including me, please see that whether it suits you. I may tell you that get up early in the morning at 4 o'clock and start studying. Okay. But does it suit you? Your habit may be that, studying in the night. Okay. So whatever advice anybody is giving you, take that advice, apply your mind to it, logically deduce whether this advice is fitting me or not, and then adopt the advice as such or with some modifications. One complete reading of all the modules is a must. Okay, that means you have to read all the modules, all the pages at least once. That is a must. The more number of times you will read, okay, the better it will be. However, blind reading will not help. You have to read consciously with a view that you don't want to gain any knowledge, but you want to gain a knowledge and apply it to solve a problem. So that is very important thing. So while reading, go on marking the areas which you have understood or which you have not understood, especially not understood. I will show you here. When I started, first time studying module 4. So I'll just show you this here. So if you see here, this is module 4. And now I did not understand what is service oriented. So I marked this. Okay. So if you have a physical copy, you can take a highlighter and you can mark it. But if you don't have a physical copy, you can go on marking it over here. And then you can find out what it means. Okay. So this way you can go on underlining, and then you can also see here in my language, I have written here standard, mandatory, that is accounting standard, ISO standard, framework means what, guideline means what. So go on putting comments. If it is a PDF file, you can put the highlighter. If it is a physical copy of the material, you can use a pen or pencil, and in the margin, you can go on writing. But this is a must. While first time when you are reading this, you have to do this so that your second reading becomes very easy. Then prepare your inventory of what you know and what you don't know. Okay. So what I know, for example, end device. I have written, your inventory will be different. So what I know in end device, I know what is server. What I don't know, maybe host or maybe what is the service. Okay. So like this, you prepare an inventory of your knowledge. Okay. As you know that you are chartered accountants, you know the importance of inventory, right? So therefore, this is inventory of your knowledge, that what I know, what I don't know. And it should be a very simple inventory. It need not be very complicated. Okay. How to prepare this inventory? Two ways to prepare this inventory. One is from glossary. Okay. I will show you this DISA glossary, which is given by the institute. So if you see here, this is a glossary which is given by the institute. It is very important to read glossary, because in the glossary you understand in a very simple language or small sentences what is to be, what is the meaning of that. So access control list, etc., etc. Okay. So this glossary reading is a must. Okay. If you have not done it, please, I recommend you to do it. Reading the glossary and keep on reading it. Just like when you were doing your CA, you were reading the accounting standards, keep on reading the glossary. So this is the glossary given by the institute. It may not contain all the terminologies. So I will give you a comprehensive glossary here. This is by a famous American standard institute, NIST. So here the glossary is given in a much easier way. So if you want to see what is there in N, you can go to N, and then you can go through all the glossaries. Now this glossary is quite complicated. So what I would suggest is that first you read the institute glossary, and if you feel that you need to read additional glossaries, then only you can go to this additional glossaries. But reading glossary will help you a lot. Okay, not only the material, but glossary also. And second idea of preparing this inventory of knowledge is when you solve questions. So when you are solving the question, suppose you now, for example, I gave you an example of a hashing. I don't know. So I will immediately put here what I don't know, hashing. So hashing, I don't know. Okay. So when you are solving the question, when you do this inventory, you can do it in simple Excel. Okay. You will come to know that what you know, what you don't know, and you have to focus on what you don't know. Right. Now, this is a plan which I have given. Again, as I said, that follow your own plan. I am giving you this plan as a suggestion. But as I said, that don't take my suggestion blindly. You follow your own methodology. Module 4, there are 84 pages. Oh, sorry, 86 pages. Module 5, there are 109 pages. Module 6 is, there are 64 pages. I am taking only module 4, 5, 6. Case study and lab material only for modules 4 and 5 I have taken, and the number of pages are around 51. Glossary pages are around 50. So total number of pages which one has to read as a student are around 360 of module 4, 5, 6 only. I am telling you only module 4, 5, 6. So therefore, if I can read one page, that is when I say read means read and understand. In 15 minutes, I will totally require 5,400 minutes. Divided by 60, I will require 90 hours to complete reading of module 4, 5, 6 and glossary and case studies and lab manual. Okay. Suppose if I do this for 3 hours per day, then I will require 30 days for finishing the first reading of module 4, 5, 6. Plus, if I am going to solve the questions, it may take additional 30 days for questions and, discussions, etc., etc. So approximately, according to me, module 4, 5, 6, 2 months or less than that is sufficient if you study sincerely and properly with solving questions. Plus, add to it 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe 3 months you will require for reading and understanding. But as I said, your first reading should be structured reading. That means you should go on marking what you know, what you have understood, what you have not understood, etc. That we call as a reading, not just sitting in on a sofa, TV is on, and then you are reading just like that. That is not a reading. That is just you understand English words, but you don't understand the meaning of the English word in your mind. So therefore, you have to take a pencil and you have to go on underlining difficult what you have not understood, etc. You may be already doing this, but I'm just telling you because now you are in a student mode. So therefore, student has to be treated as student and assume that he or she doesn't know how to approach the exam. Treat ISA exam as a project. In just now in module 3, you must have seen project management. Okay. So treat ISA exam also as a project. Okay. Maybe 3 months, 4 months project, and you have to pass it. So therefore, prepare a study plan in Excel. It is very easy to prepare a study plan in Excel. For example, in this study plan, you have to list out all your activities. Okay. Exam related activities, non-exam related activities. For example, exam related activities I have listed here: reading, solving questions, discussion, e-learning, internet lectures, browsing, etc., etc. Non-exam activities is your job, your practice area, whatever practice you are doing, watching TV, social media time, social time, okay, sleep, etc. So that you will get a complete picture that how much you are focusing on exam and how much you are focusing on non-exam. Immediately within 1 week, you will come to know, oh, I am studying only 3 hours per week, which is not sufficient. So exam activities and non-exam activities all should be listed out. Okay. How to study? Stick to your study habits. Okay, from childhood, we have developed several study habits. For example, my study habits is that put a radio on and then study. Okay, so therefore, everybody's will have some study habits. Somebody will be getting up early in the morning. Somebody will be, late night sitting and studying. Whatever is your study habit, please don't change that study habit. Continue that study habit. Maybe you will have to do some little bit tweaking, considering the technicalities and so on. While reading, underline important words, write meaning in your own words also. That also will be your own words glossary. Suppose if I don't understand some word, write in my own maybe mother tongue or in Hindi or in Gujarati or whatever is my mother tongue. Okay, that will also help. Go to the basics of the topics and try to understand that topic in a non-technical way. See, you are a non-technical person, right? You already are chartered accountant. So if you want to understand a technical topic, you have to understand first in your own words or in your own thoughts. Okay. And then you can go on for the technical meaning. Now, this is not a rocket science. Information technology is for human betterment. Information technology is for application systems. Okay. So therefore, how we think information technology is done in that way only. So therefore, try to understand technology in a non-technical way. That will help. Discussion in groups, that is possible now. WhatsApp groups are there. So if you don't understand something, you can don't have any fear of asking to anybody, to me also. Let it be any foolish question. You may feel that it is a basic question or it is a foolish question. Don't worry, ask it. Okay, and learn it. Ask experts via email. All faculties are mentors also. So you can ask me any doubt, any query, etc. My email ID I will be giving you. Solve a lot of questions. I will tell you some MCQ question sites. Of course, when I come to that particular slide, I will show you that. Now, what I have done is that for modules 4, 5, and 6, okay, I have marked some topics which are easy topics, some topics which are medium easy topics, and some topics which are difficult topics, according to me. Okay, according to me. So this is my ranking. Prepare your own ranking. Okay, and I will be sharing this ranking also with you. I will give you an example here. First is module 4. I think this is visible. So this is module 4. In module 4, there are 4 chapters. Okay. So I have marked here green means these chapters are easy to understand for CA. Okay. Yellow means they are slightly difficult. Okay. And red means they are technical and you have to make efforts for understanding that. So like this, what I have done is I have marked, this is chapter 1. This is chapter 2. This is chapter 3. So if you see here, DBMS, I have marked that it is a difficult, red mark. Okay. And this is chapter 4. Like this, I have done for you for module 4. I have done for module 5. So here, cyber computer attacks is a difficult to understand. All other things, if you see, they are green. Okay, lot of greenery is there here. But please let me tell you that this is my understanding, and therefore please prepare. Take the index of every module and prepare your understanding that you have understood this, you have understood this. This is easy. This is medium easy. This is difficult. Okay, this I have to study more. This is called as a structured efforts of reading and studying. Okay. Otherwise, blind reading is not going to help. Same way I have done for module 6 also. Module 6 is of course emerging technologies. There are only 6 technologies which are emerging. So I have marked most of them which are easy, and some are medium difficult. For example, why I have marked these difficulties, because artificial intelligence of course is a bit difficult. Blockchain is a bit difficult. Cloud computing is a bit difficult. Data analytics is not that difficult. UCAs can understand. Internet of Things is also not that difficult. Robotic process automation is actually used nowadays in many companies, banks, etc., etc. So therefore, it is slightly, I have marked it as difficult. But again, let me tell you that this is my marking. Please prepare your marking. You can take my marking. I will be sharing this with you. You can take my marking, and then on top of it, you can have your own marking. Now, some ideas for selecting the correct option. Now, what I have done here, I have given here some examples, okay, for selecting the correct option. Some examples I have taken, and through these examples, I will clarify these options. I will not actually, ask you that what is the correct option. Okay, I will just give you the idea. First is common sense. Many of the questions, my impression is that around 25 to 30% of the questions asked in the exam, whether it is DISA or whether it is CISA, can be answered if you have a common sense. Okay, and it is said that famous saying that common sense is not that common. Common sense is not very common. Okay. For example, here this question, a transaction in a database management system should be atomic in nature. An atomic transaction is. Okay. Now, in this question, if you ask me, I have not understood except a transaction. I understand what it is. Database management system, I understand. I don't understand what is atomic. I don't understand what is an atomic transaction, let's say. Okay. Now, this question, if you read the options, transaction should be submitted by a user. Okay. Usually, user is going to submit the transaction. Transaction should be either completed or not completed at all. Transaction should fail. Transaction can be in between fail and complete. Now, this is here, it is obvious that this is our day-to-day life experience, that when we give some work to someone, we tell him or her that please complete the work or don't start it, right? Please complete the work or don't start it. Don't do half. Okay. So therefore, this question is not at all technical. An atomic transaction is what? Means what? Means transaction should be either completed or not completed at all. I don't know what is atomic. Okay. But I definitely know that transaction should be either completed or not completed at all. So therefore, such questions can be answered with a common sense. Another example of common sense question is, which of the following would best support 24/7 availability? So now 24/7, the system should be available. Okay. Will daily backup help that? Daily backup may help it, but if it is 24/7, when I am taking the backup, and at that time, suppose if system stops, then what? Offsite storage will not help it. Periodic testing has nothing to do with the backup. After backup, we try to test it by restoring it. So here again, common sense tells me that mirroring. Mirroring means what? Duplicating the data as well as the information system. So mirroring is what is a common sense. So what I don't know, I can eliminate, and what even if I don't know, I can come to that particular answer. So mirroring is the correct option. Now, some questions, so 25 to 30 questions will be common sense. Another 25 to 30 questions are such that you have to know the subject. That means you have to study, you have to read, you have to understand. Okay. For example, this question, during development of a software system, which of the following will be used to maintain software integrity? Now here there is a question of software integrity. Now, unless I have studied this properly, okay, probably I will not be able to answer this question, because it may be a configuration management, it may be a change management. Definitely none of the above is not the option. Okay, I will tell you later on. None of the above and all of the above are generally dangerous options. So they have to be selected very, very judiciously. So here, unless I know the subject, I will not be able to answer. Okay, common sense and method of elimination may help here if you intelligently do that. But here I have to know the subject. So therefore, the correct option here is the version control. So during the development, programmers, they use version control for maintaining the software integrity. Unless I study this, okay, I will not be able to answer this question. Maybe by fluke, I will be able to answer. Here, this is another example, know the subject. Which of the following should be reviewed to provide assurance of the database referential integrity? Now, unless I know what is meant by referential integrity, because this is something totally different, okay, I will not be able to know, or I will not be able to select the correct option here, because all the four options look to me as something which is totally foreign to me. Field definition, master table definition, composite keys, foreign key structure, etc. Okay, maybe some common sense I can use here, reference, and therefore foreign key. I can maybe it can be applied. So here the correct option is foreign key, but it is better that you should know the subject. This is the third example of know the subject. Which of the following is a method used to gather information about the communication network? How I gather the information about a communication network. Now, unless I know what is reconnaissance, because this is a special English word. This is an English word only. Okay, but we don't use this word in our day-to-day life. Okay, so therefore, unless I know what is reconnaissance, unless I know what is eavesdropping, okay, wiretapping and maybe brute force I know, but reconnaissance and eavesdropping, I have to study the topic, and therefore the correct option here is the reconnaissance. So these questions are such that you have to study. Now, some questions are such that in which broader approach, okay, will help you. This is a very classic example of a broader approach. I could not find any other question of broader approach, but this is a very classic example. Which of the following training an employee can acquire while working on his or her desk in the office? Okay, that means which of the following which you can be on your desk in your office and you can acquire. Okay. Now, if you go through this, maybe simulator-based training, I don't know what it is, but instructor-led training, I know. Hands-on training, I know. E-learning, I know. Right? Simulator-based training must be something which I maybe, it may not be possible to learn on the desk or while in office. But if you see this, all four options are applicable here. E-learning is also applicable. Simulator-based training also you can do by sitting on desk, you can learn. Instructor-led training, because of online, currently what we are doing is instructor-led training only. And hands-on training, all four options appear to be correct. In such case, broader approach you have to select. What is the broader approach? If you ask me, the broader approach is e-learning. Why? Because simulator-based training can be part of e-learning. Instructor-led training also comes under e-learning, and hands-on training also can come under e-learning. So therefore, broader approach I will select. So this is another strategy wherein you have to select a broader approach for some questions. So I have told you some questions are common sense, some questions are knowledge. You have to know the subject. This is the third broader approach example. So here, if I am confused among four options, I will go and I will select broader approach, which is applicable e-learning. You have to, this is in the beginning, it was told that information system audit exam. So we are not going to develop information system. We are not going to design information system. We are not going to operate information system, but we are going to audit information system. So therefore, we have to have focus on audit and control. Okay, so this question is audit and control focused related, and also I have marked in the brackets related question. Okay, so this is a type of related question also. I will tell you what is meant by that. So detection risk refers to what? Concluding that material errors do not exist when in fact they do, controls that fail to detect an error, controls that detect high risk errors, detecting an error but failing to report it. Okay, now here focus should be on audit and control. And if you read the option number 1, concluding that material errors do not exist when actually they do exist, that means there is a material error. Okay, but you as an auditor is thinking that they don't exist. Okay, so therefore that is a detection risk. Auditor is failing here to detect that there is a material error. So therefore A is the answer. Correct? But this A answer is audit and control focus. So I have to focus myself while giving exam that I'm an auditor. Okay, so therefore my focus should be on audit and control, and it is a related question. What is meant by related question? When you are taking the exam, usually there could be some questions, 2 or 3 questions, which are related to each other. Okay, they may appear one after the other, or they may appear maybe say 10 question is one question, and then the related question may appear to be say 50, question number 50 and question number 10. They could be related question. Okay, so therefore if you feel that, oh, I have taken this question before, or I have done something related to this, then you can go back and check whether you have taken such question. Now here I have given the question immediately. The risk that an IS auditor uses an inadequate test procedure and concludes that material errors do not exist when in fact they do is an example of what? So if you ask me why I call this as a related question, because earlier question was what? It was asking what is the detection risk, and here what is they are asking that the risk that an IS auditor uses inadequate test procedure and concludes that material errors do not exist. Exactly mirror image of the earlier question or related question. So here straight away, if I have taken that earlier question, before this question, I can straight away come to the answer. This is a detection risk. So if you see here, the earlier question, detection risk refers to concluding that material errors do not exist when in fact they do exist. And here it is, the risk that an IS auditor uses inadequate test procedure and concludes that material errors do not exist. So it is a detection risk. So such related question also may be there. So you have to take the exam, not just go on blindly answering, but you have to be focused. Okay. And you have to see that, oh, this can be there, this question can be there, common sense question can be there. Of course, it will be very difficult to identify that which is common sense question, which is these questions which are related questions, etc. But you don't have to consciously do that. You have to just remember these techniques. Now, most important thing, or this I should have moved first, read the question properly. Okay. Now, this question this question is from chapter 4 only, but I have seen that in my classes, many students are giving wrong answer in this question. In a relational DBMS, a record refers to which of the following? Now here, of course, this tuple you should know. Okay, so this question I can classify as a know the subject also. Okay, but if a DBMS, you have already understood what is a database management system and you have already seen what is a record, you may wrongly jump to the answer as rows here. Okay, here this is not a rows. One row is equal to tuple. So this tuple means one row. Tuple is a specific relational terminology which is used. Okay, so therefore a record means it is a record. Refers to what? It refers to a row, but not rows. So here, by mistake, if you don't read the question and options properly, by mistake, you may read this to be a row because you are taking so many questions for 4 hours. Okay, so your mind may not be properly focused. So therefore, you may read this as a row instead of rows, and you may jump to option B. This has happened in my many of my classes. So here tuple is the correct answer. Read the question properly. Which of the following is not a property of database transactions? Okay. Now here also all the three are properties of database transaction, only with one is not. So consistency, if you have, of course, this also you should know what is consistency, atomicity, and durability. But here insulation is odd man out. Okay, so therefore insulation, if you don't read this properly, because if I put here isolation, so there are four, it is called as acid properties. So atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. These four are the properties of, or they are called as acid properties, A, C, I, and D. But wrongly, if you read this insulation to be isolation, okay, then you will select that particular option. So therefore, read question properly. Method of elimination. This is another, some questions, maybe 25, 30 questions will be such that you can select correct option by method of elimination. Now here, if you see phases of an incident management program, okay, prepare, respond, and follow up, plan, prepare, and respond, plan, prepare, and follow up, prepare, plan, and respond. Now, incident means that something has happened, something which is not required, not desired has happened. Okay, so we have to respond to it. So wherever there is a respond, we have to search that. Unfortunately, here respond is here, here, and here. Okay, so three options are there with respond. So how can we eliminate? But if you look at plan, prepare, plan, prepare, prepare, plan. Okay, now what is meaning of plan and prepare? Okay, if you go to course material 4, plan and prepare are the same thing. We call it as a planning or we call it as a preparation. So generally we say plan stroke prepare. So planning and preparation is one phase only, a single phase only. They are not separate phases. So wherever there is a plan and prepare, we have to eliminate that. Straight away, we eliminate plan, prepare, prepare, plan. And therefore, even though respond is in 3 options, we straight away come to this option, that is prepare, respond, and follow up. Okay. So method of elimination. See, please tell me, please let me tell you that this you have to practice. Huh? This is a practicing. You can't listen to my lecture and directly think that, okay, I will directly try it in the final exam. No, this topic is of practice. You have to practice it while you are solving the questions. Consciously, you have to practice this. Okay, and I have given some techniques. There are other techniques also. So you have to, compile all these techniques. I have given most of the techniques. Maybe there are some other techniques also. So this is method of elimination. For an unexpected and sudden changes in technology, organizations need to be what? Innovative, agile, expert, doer. Okay. So here, method of elimination, everybody can't be innovative, everybody can't be expert. Doer is everybody. So therefore, obvious option becomes agile. So therefore, this is by method of elimination, I came to agile as the option. Another method of which of the following is the best password? Okay. Now here I know that Satish, that means there is a name. So this is not a good password. Second one is CA, ICAI. Okay. So again, it is a reference to some name. So not good password. So option C is password at 123. 123 is very common. So many people keep this as a password. But if you observe the last password, you will realize that it contains uppercase, it contains lowercase, it contains numbers, and it contains alphabet. So therefore, method of elimination tells me straight away that last option is the correct option. Now, this is an example of a case study question. In the beginning, I told you that e-learning, case studies, lab manual, and your course material, all are in your syllabus. Okay. So this question is from a case study question. In module 4, there is a case study and a healthcare system. So it is saying, and this is a rather a long question. Case study on healthcare system implementation has the following paragraph. Okay. Now, how you answer long questions? There is a technique that for answering long questions, what you have to do is you have to start here. That is what is asked. Which of the following? So when I see a long question, I will first go to the end. Which of the following is the best method to generate MIS report in such situation? Okay. That means what is asked is that how do you generate MIS report? Okay. And then blah, 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 everything has been given over here. Now, I will definitely read this also. But what is asked is that how do you generate MIS report? Okay. Now, if you see this option, nothing can be done in this situation. That is not correct. Just send the operational data for deducing MIS manually. Manually is not the option. Print the operational report and manually prepare MIS. So this is again manually. So pull the data from HIS system, health information system, and prepare MIS report in a spreadsheet tool. So I come to this option. But if I start reading right from here, then I will get bogged down in that long answer. So for long questions, usually you have to start at the end and then go to the beginning. What is asked? Okay. Usually all the case study questions or long questions, they have to be answered with this trick that you first go to the end of the question, see what has been asked, and then you come to the descriptive portion of the case study. Same way here also, this is a case study question which is given. So this sentence indicates which of the following. So this I have to answer. So therefore, now I will not go through the details of that because we have some limited time here. So I will go to start here and then go to the beginning. Okay. And then I will come to the correct answer, which is functionality of the software is hampered. I'm not saying don't read the question. I'm saying that start here, what is asked, and then read. So in order to come to this answer, you have to read the full question. But first form in your mind what has been asked. Okay. And then you can go and read the question. Lab manual is also important. Okay. So I'm saying that all the lab manuals also are important and questions may come on the lab manuals also. So from the module 4, this is a question which I have selected. Select star from employees. This is which type of RDBMS statement. Now, if you have done the lab manual of module 4, you will realize that this is a simple SQL command. Okay. And select command. So this is select command. So you need not understand what is star and maybe employees also, what is employees, etc. So star means all the columns. From employees means employees is the table. So this is called as a data manipulation language, DML statement or DML command. Okay, in module 4 you learn this. Now here, manipulation does not mean in an unauthorized manner. Here manipulation is for authorized users. So that is a IT, what you call as a terminology, data manipulation language. Okay, so there are in structured query language, SQL language, there are 3 types of languages: data manipulation language, data definition language, and data control language. Okay, so out of which this statement is from data manipulation language. In our SQL lab exercise, a trigger is used for creating an audit log or audit trail. Generally, a trigger is a command which can be invoked. Okay, so again, in lab manual, we have done this in module 4. So here, if you have done that lab manual, you will be able to give the correct answer. That trigger is a command which can be invoked either before or after something happens. So event means something happening. Okay, when we go and deposit cash in the bank, it is an event. Okay, so trigger is what? Trigger is a small program, okay, which can be invoked, okay, either before or after something happens. For example, we receive OTP. So as soon as you withdraw money from the bank, okay, your account master, your account balance file is hit. Okay, so you are withdrawing or you are depositing. So as soon as you are withdrawing or you are depositing, your balance changes. So this is an event which has happened. So there is a trigger command written on the your balance file that if balance changes, send a message, debit credit message to the person who is having that account. Okay, so therefore, as soon as the balance is changed, a trigger will invoke that debit credit message and it will come to your registered mobile. So this is how the lab manual also is important. Now, these are some more ideas which I want to give you. Plan your time properly, which Dr. Vinay Kumar also told you, that divide it into a 50-50 question. So you have to plan your, but I feel that for these 200 questions, 4 hours should be sufficient. Read question properly and if possible, try answer in your mind. Follow the method of elimination. Read all options. Even if you have selected one option as an answer, don't jump to the conclusion. Okay, please carefully read all the options also. Sometimes I could not identify a particular question for you to give an example, but sometimes the clue or the answer is in the question itself. Okay, that means when you read the question itself tells you what would be the answer. For example, there is one question in module 4, I recollected now, that who is the owner of the data in the department? Okay, and 4 options are given: data custodian, data owner. So the answer is there in the question itself. Who is the data owner in the department? Data owner is data owner. Okay, so therefore sometimes answer is there in the question, but you don't actually see it. Another idea is try to find out odd man out. What is odd, that you try to find out, and that will be generally the answer. If nothing works, okay, all these things, common sense, your method of elimination, nothing works, okay, make an educated guess. Remember, there is no negative marking. Okay, so go on guessing. Suppose, for example, let's say you fail in time management and last 10 minutes you have to answer, say, 30-40 questions. Okay, go on making educated guess because there is no negative marking. Okay, this is another tip which is generally given in all multiple choice questions. Stick to your first choice. So when you have completed all your 200 questions, usually you will go back and revise. Usually don't change your first choice. Maybe 2-3 questions you can do that, but don't go on changing what you have already answered. Usually first choice is a correct choice. Okay, so if you start changing many options, then stop there. Okay, don't change too many already answered questions. Be careful about all of the above, none of the above options. You know, in CISA exam, they don't ask any of these options, none of the above or all of the above. But in our exam, it can come, it may come. But be careful about all of the above or none of the above type of questions. So these are some more ideas. Now, what, since there is hardly, there is some time. Okay, I have now included some basics which you must know. Okay, this I have included in this presentation. And I have also given a Word file which I will show you. So what basics you must include or you must know, especially for module 4, module 5. Okay, this is the diagram which I have given, which you will find in all the networks or all the companies in today's network. Okay, this is, I would say that we call it as, you know, LCM. Okay, lowest common, or today there was a meeting in Patna and they decided to have a common minimum program. So you can say this is a common minimum architecture. Okay, which you will find in all the companies. Okay, this you have to remember for reading, or not only for this exam, but even when you go and actually start system audit, you can have this as a common minimum architecture in companies as of today. So this, I will not go in deep of this, but I will just explain this so that you can understand this. So this is our LAN, which you will find in any office. This, even modem is included. Okay. So any office or any local area network, you will have this. So these are all end devices. This is a switch. All end devices will be always connected to switch. And if you have to go out of your office, then you have to have a router. Then there will be a modem. Then there will be a telephone line, and you will be connecting to your service provider. Okay. This is always there in any office. Okay. As an end device, there could be an ATM machine, or there could be a mobile phone, or there could be a tab, anything. Okay. So these are called as PCs or end devices. And here, that is from this side, this is a data center equipment or centralized equipment. Okay. So here you will find here again, there is a service provider near the data center. There is a modem, there is a router, there is a switch. Okay. And then there is a web server. So this is called as a 3-tier architecture: web server, application server, database server. And then nowadays we have storage area network. Okay. This is a storage area network. This diagram you will find in all the companies, whether it is Google, IBM, Microsoft, small cooperative bank, CA's office, etc., etc. Okay. Now CA's office may not have a data center, but this can be on cloud also. So you can have Amazon or you can have Google Cloud, and then Google will have web server, application server, database server, and storage area network. So in any companies, you will find this 1, this 2, this 3. Okay. And these are all end devices where users are sitting and doing their job. Correct. And in between, there are all networking. Always facing end devices will be switch. So all the end devices will be connected to switch. Right? Like our fan, tube lights, refrigerator, washing machine. These are we use in our day-to-day life, right? They are connected where? Electrical switch in our room. And that electrical switch is connected to main switch of our building. And that main switch is connected to the distribution point of our electric company. Same way here. Instead of distribution switch, we call it as a router. So this is a router. So switch always will be connected to router. Here also you will find that since we are entering here, first is router, then there are switches. And then there is a web server, application server, and database server. 3-tier architecture. This is tier 1, this is tier 2, this is tier 3. And nowadays data, instead of keeping it on database server, all the data is kept on the storage area network. So that's all. And this is what is not in our scope. So this is my premise. Okay, let me just erase this. So this is up to here my premises. As soon as I enter telephone line, it is not my premises. Okay, telephone line is given to me by telephone company. So this is not my premises. This is not my premises. And again, here I will enter my premises. That is provided I have my own data center. So when you are auditing this from this end to this end, everything is in scope except service provider. That means I will have to audit PCs, switches, routers, modems. If there is a server, then server. I have to audit this modem, router, switches, web server, application server, database server, sandbox, excluding service provider. Service provider, because the company or bank has given me this to audit. So this network diagram, you have to remember, always you have to remember. And apart from this, I am also giving you some basic concepts, which I will show you. I will not discuss them now because there is no time. 15 minutes are there. So this diagram I have included here. Sorry. So this diagram I have included here also, same diagram. Okay. And I have given here following terminologies, which are essential for understanding module 4 and module 5. Okay. Some more I may be adding as, you may ask me difficulties or some other may ask me difficulties, then I will go on adding. So what is a user, what is end user, what is host, node, end device, client, terminal, console, POS, what is endpoint, what is VDU, server, what is meant by port, many things, many a times we understand port to be a physical, okay? But in order to understand module 5 properly, you have to understand that port is a logical also. And here we are more dealing with the logical port. Okay, so there I have given these concepts also. If you don't understand, I will be sharing this with you. If you don't understand, I can help you in understanding this. So this I have given what is a 3-tier architecture. I have given airline analogy to understand this 3-tier architecture. So if you read this later on, okay, you will easily understand what is web server and what is application server and so on. What is a cookie? What is meant by hardening? What is a data center? What is developers? Some basics about the MAC address and IP address and so on. Okay, and then what is the end device, client to server? What is meant by port? What is meant by IP address? How IP address goes as a request? How server sends you the response? And in that response also there is an IP address and port number. What are the various port numbers and server endpoints? What is DNS, domain name system? What is DHCP? What is network address translation, etc. All these basics I have given. All these are there taken in e-learning also, but I have also explained them over here. In this particular Word file, which I'll be sharing with you. Now, these are some links for learning. This e-learning of ICI, of course, very essential. Then this particular videos, there are videos. I will not go through these videos, but these are very good, beautiful videos, which you can later on go through. So if you see here, this gentleman explains, and all videos are 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 14 minutes. So he explains properly. Okay, some of them may not be useful to you, but what is VPN? What is virtualization? What is ports? What is monitor? Maybe what is MAC address? What is Wi-Fi? Subnet mask, trace route, in a very, very lucid manner. This gentleman explains. Some of them you may not be relevant to you, but what is firewall? Okay, then what is Ethernet cable, etc., etc. What is FTP? So most of the things he explains. So these videos maybe later on you can go for understanding. Maybe for exam, if you understand the subject, suppose for example you don't understand what is firewall, you can go to that video. First you go to e-learning of institute, but suppose if from that you don't understand, these are also are the videos. And there are other online education platforms through virtual labs are there, like Udemy, Edureka, Coursera, Microsoft, Simply Learn, etc. But of course, your e-learning of ICI and these kind of videos on YouTube should be sufficient. Now, I'll also try to tell you some of the, what you have to do is that somebody asked the question that where we will get multiple choice questions. So what I'm saying is that here, what you can do is type like this: information technology audit. Okay. And if you see here, and also type MCQs. Okay. So information technology audit MCQs. Okay. So this is a good site, MCQ Adda. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that just try to see this as, some questions may not be relevant. Okay. But try to solve this. You will get an idea as to how to solve these questions. Okay. Also, you can try MCQs on DBMS or MCQs on networking. Okay. Some may be very advanced. Okay. So you may type MCQs on basic networking. Okay, so you will find here MCQs and answers. Try to go through them. If you feel that they are too technical or too difficult, forget it, go to the next site. Okay, so lot of MCQs you can get it from here also. Okay, from here also you can get a lot of MCQs. You can get for information technology audit also. Okay, MCQs for this. You may take CISA questions also, but generally they are difficult CISA questions. But simple basic questions, there are many sites you can start collecting these questions. Okay, as your library. Some students may go if you work in group, what will happen is some students will collect these MCQs. Some students may do something else like that. So in a group, if you study, then that will be better. So with this, I come to my end of my session. And if there are any questions, then you can ask me either now, or you can send me. This is my email ID and this is my number. I have shared with you, or you can ask institute also. And because we work as mentors also, all faculties are supposed to work as mentors. So with this, I complete my session. I hope you liked it, and thanks for patient listening. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, sir, for enriching our knowledge with your insightful and wonderful deliberation, which is explained with relevant example too. So you have beautifully defined the strategies to be used while attempting long question as well. We have to go to the end and then go to the beginning, sharing the glossary and MCQs, the data and the techniques for finding MCQs on the Google. I am assured that members have immensely benefited with this session. You not only share the intellectual knowledge, but also boost our spirit to keep on raising our bar of knowledge, sir. Last but not the least, I want to thank the participant for their patience listening. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry? Yeah. Good night.